All right.
Okay, everybody, we're live and ready to go. My name is Nick Baldwin. I am co-founder here at Lab Coat Agents, and I've got Gustavo Gus Munoz Castro. How'd that sound? Good.
Oh,
Sounds
doing great, man.
good.
You're
I
doing
like.
practicing. You've been practicing over the
I've been
holidays, I
practicing
see.
in the mirror. It's about time I brushed
100%.
up. He is
Good.
CEO and founder of Power ISA, and we're going to go over a bunch of stuff today. But in the just to kind of narrow it down, we're going to learn how to get everything you need in order to get listings in 2026. We go over some lead sources, some tools, some scripts, everything you need to grow to get those listings this year. It's January 12th. We want to hit the ground running. If you haven't already, we're going to do it right now. So thanks for being here, Gus.
100%. Glad to be here, Nick. And every year, December, January timeframe, I love to do a talk like this, like focused on, okay, it's the new year, right? What is your plan to get listings? And I like to bring the case studies and the stories from my own clients, from what I'm seeing right now in the market that is working right now. And as getting ready for this presentation, I looked at last year's list is different actually. It's a different list than it was last year because guess what? The market's different than it was last year. And I'm going to start, I'm going to jump in the first 5 minutes. I don't want to bore you. The first 5 minutes is setting the table on where are we in the cycle, the housing cycle, right? Because we are in a very different spot than we were a year ago. And that's, I think it's both good news and bad news. And nothing's ever black and white. But I think there's a lot of opportunities. How about that, Nick? There's a lot of
Yeah, I love
opportunities in
opportunity.
2026 that we didn't have in 2025, right? So Young, let's jump into it. Let's jump into the presentation. Let's go for it. You are here on the webinar to get more listings in 2026. If you're expecting another one, you're in the wrong place. This is the right place if you want to get more sellers, more listings. You got to list to last in a market like this. Let's jump into it. This is the first. So I love this chart, right? Because the gray bar is like the 2 months during the COVID lockdowns where we thought the world was going to end. Nick, we wasn't sure
Yeah,
was going to
I
happen,
remember.
but the rest of it is pre-COVID and post-COVID, and that's a very different market. Okay, pre and post and it was kind of out of whack for years. Okay, at the tail end of 2025, the trend here is pretty clear. Okay, inventory has been rising year over year over year. There's a little bit of a hump here because it's seasonal, right? Inventory tends to go up in the spring and summer, and it tends to go down in the fall and the winter. That's normal. But look at the trend line. The trend line could not be clearer. Inventory is going up, going up, going up almost 10% in 2025 from the year before. That's over 100,000 listings. That's a lot of new properties on the market that just weren't there the year before. So last year, we weren't sure if this trend was going to continue. It was kind of a blip in the radar. The trend is here and it's growing. Inventory, we're seeing more inventory. And if you're in different markets like South Florida, parts of Texas, like you're really seeing the inventory jump on the market. Properties are taking a little bit longer to sell. There's more properties to choose from. We hadn't seen that in a really long time in a lot of these markets. And I think my prediction for this year, is that their trend is going to continue, right? Because Nick, we are barely look at this line over here, right? At about 1 million active listings for the country. That's barely where we were pre-pandemic. We're barely getting back to pre-pandemic levels. And I don't know if anyone remembers 2019. That wasn't a buyer's market, guys. It was the 10th year or the 8th or ninth year of a hot seller's market. It was the 8th or ninth year of a hot seller's market, 2019. Okay. So don't worry about it. The bottom, I don't think the bottom's falling out of the market at all, 100%. I think we're just getting back to normal for the whole country. So let's put that in perspective. I love the perspective of these numbers because, yeah, inventory is a lot higher in a lot of these markets. That's just not true for the whole country. You got to take a look at the overall picture. Okay. Next, this is the latest data we have from NAR on sales for the whole year. This is from November. Take it for what you will. In a few weeks, we'll have the December numbers, but this is the latest data we got. 4.13 million homes were sold, about that number last year. It's relatively the same for the last couple of years, right? A little bit higher than what I expected. 1.43 million homes for sale. Inventory is up. In November, it was up almost 8%. I think once we get the numbers for the whole year, I think it'll be up almost 10%. 4.2 months of supply. All these numbers are on inventory are up, okay, from a year ago. they are increasing. There are more homes on the market, okay? Which changes the dynamic of some of these opportunities, right? It just changes there's some lead sources that don't make as much more sense anymore that they did a year ago, not so much anymore. That's why we got different strategies this year. Okay, cool. Let's jump right into it then. This is what you guys actually came for. I'm going to go through what the top strategies that are working right now to get listings. I'm going to start with the category of prospecting. Let's jump right into it. Yeah, I've got like 50 slides to get through, so I'm going to try my best. Nick, stop me because I'll go 100 miles a minute if someone doesn't stop. So Nick, if I miss something, stop me. You're the voice of the customer here, voice of the audience. So if I'm rolling over something that I should talk a little bit more about, let me know. Because I'm gonna turn myself loose here. Okay, trying to get through all this content. Right. And always, folks, remember, if you miss something in a slide, a topic, I put there's some YouTube links here for because there's so much content in this presentation. I wasn't able to get to everything, but I put some links so you can go and at your time, at your leisure, go and investigate some of these scripts and tools better. I will give this presentation to you for free. You don't have to take notes, don't have to take screenshots. I'll have an email at the end. Send me an email and we'll send it to you within 24 hours. Okay, the whole deck. So you don't have to take a bunch of notes, right? So let's rock and roll. Number one, what are we seeing work really, really well over the last 3 months, over the last 6 months when you're talking about prospecting? And that is, and I know people talk about canceled, FSBO, and expired like they're the same thing, and they're actually not the same thing, okay? They're distinct lead sources. They have distinct strategies, and I think right now is a really good time to focus on expired, and we're seeing a lot of success with expired and circle prospecting, okay? A lot of folks kind of assume that circle prospecting, because it's like true cold call, right? Like you're prospecting out of the phone book would be dead by now, and it's not, okay? We're seeing a lot of people have a lot of success with circle prospect, and I'll talk about why. I'm going to drill into both of these right now, okay? Recently, over the last 10 days, we were in the middle of what I call the Super Bowl of expireds, okay? Super Bowl of expireds. Why? Because January 1st just happened a few days ago, right? 11 days ago, January 1st, okay? What does that mean? Most properties come off the market. It's the number one day for expireds for the whole year, okay? More properties will come off the market January 1st than any other day, followed closely by July 1st is another day you see a lot of properties come off the market. Why? Because it's just convention, right? You sign a 3-month listing, a 6-month listing, you want to tie it to the beginning, like the end of the year, right? That's normal. So you see a lot of properties are off the market in expired listings. That's still going on right now. There's an opportunity for expired listings because there's so many. I published this in LCA like on January 1st. How many expireds did you see in your market? Some people said 600, 700, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, depending on the size of your market. So anywhere from several hundred to several thousand expired listings just came into the market over the last 10 days. And there are not enough agents in your market that are using these to actually call them all and follow up with them appropriately. There's just not enough people to do it. So that's why I think there's a lot of opportunity. That's this month, which is distinct than any other month of the whole year. Big opportunity with expired listings. You can actually be selective, Nick. You guys should be a little bit picky with your expired listings and go, you know what? I really want to focus on maybe 5 to 10 miles from my office. I don't want to travel. You can be very picky with expireds in January, very different than other months, right? Be a little bit picky and just follow up, because some of these expired listings, people kind of assume the expired game is I call them, I talk to them that day, I go out there and put a sign the next day. There's some low-hanging fruit like that for sure. Those are home runs though, right? Like I'm looking for the singles, the doubles, and the triples, right? Like I might be taking that. People know what I'm talking about baseball analogy. Like I want the incremental wins, right? Not only the home runs. And you can have a lot of really good conversations with sellers right now, right? Motivated sellers, maybe they don't want to list on January 2nd, they don't want to relist immediately. But most sellers are going to relist over the next several months. Have those conversations today. Right now is a great time to have conversations with motivated sellers. My personal record is 19 seller nurtures, most of them appointments, in one day on January 1st, right? But you know what? If I would have called the next day, maybe I wouldn't have said 19, but I would have said a dozen of them, right? Even if I would have called the next day. And if I would have called within the first 2 weeks, I still would have had my best calling session of the year, right? Because there's just so many of these coming on the market. Inventory is higher than it was a year ago, right? 10% more. In some of your local markets, it's 20% more. It might even be 30% more, right? And I'm talking about the Miami-Dade, Austin, Texas. There's other places where our inventory is even higher, but you've got an opportunity to get these listings and you can be pickier. You can be more selective, not just the better properties, Nick. You can actually talk to the more motivated sellers, the sellers that are willing to do what it takes to get the property sold in a market like this that has more inventory, that has more competition, right? When 4 years ago, like a lot of my clients stopped calling FSBO, stopped calling expireds. Like it didn't make any sense. Like if you were not selling in that market 2021, 2022, like you didn't want to sell. You were just nuts, right? Like the market was so hot, so starved for listings. Like I had people that just gave up. Well, what a difference a few years makes. You've got more, I feel you got more expireds than ever before out there, okay? If you're calling the brand new expireds every day, you're going to see a lot of them this month. It takes a lot of skill and a lot of speed to get in touch with them, because this is what happens, Nick. Your phone comes off the market that morning. You might not even know. This is the craziest thing. You might not even know it came off the market. You have no idea what an expired listing is, and suddenly your phone blows up at 7:58 a.m. local time. 50 agents start calling you incessantly with some of these automatic dialers, calling. What do? You turn that sucker off. Bye. I'm going to put this on silent mode. I'm doing something else. My kids are ready to go to school. I'm getting ready for the gym. I'm not going to pick up 30 calls a minute. Or sorry, an hour, 30 calls an hour, 50 calls. I'm not going to pick it up. Bye. You kind of shut off, right? So you've got to be first, and you've got to be really, really skilled for that early brand new expired. Old expireds, on the other hand, once they turn their phone back off a few days later, it can be days, by the way, when they turn their phone back on or take it off silently, because it's just crazy. Then you've got a different set of odds of actually getting in touch with them. My opinion, your odds can go up a lot if you're calling some of the older expireds. Okay, I'll break those down each, right? Regardless of new or old, you want to get the best data for expireds, okay, if you're going to call them. RedX is great. RedX is a sponsor of Live Code Agents. I think we have a deal out there. We should drop a link to that deal for people that sign up with RedX. There's also Vulcan 7 out there. Also, a lot of folks that I've seen having success with this, they'll actually hire someone to skip trace the expireds for them. Skip tracing means they'll individually match each home to a phone number. Okay, that's the most expensive option. Takes a lot of work, takes a lot of time, but you can have a lot of success if you start getting traction with expireds. That's a great option to look into, right? Because you would be surprised, Nick, how many of these properties don't get matched to an accurate phone number, right? Like I always see it. 10, 15, up to 20% of some of these homes, they give you the wrong number, or you're calling some kind of distant cousin that's also called Nick Baldwin, and he's like Nicholas or Nick, and with a K instead of with a C, and he just happens to be called something similar, and they're matching it to the wrong name, right? And every agent is going to call that wrong person. Okay. If you actually have someone take a little bit more time and try to skip trace it, you might be one of the few agents that talks to the actual owner of that property, and your odds of actually listing it are much, much higher. This is true story. One of my clients, I think was doing over 20 listings, closings a year just from expireds. And he said when he looked at the data, he found that almost all of his closings from expireds had come from numbers that were mismatched directly from the MLS, right? Like they were getting the wrong. Most people were talking to the wrong person, but since he took a little bit more time to find the right number, you can actually talk to sellers, and there's nobody competing with you in that case, right? They might be wondering, why isn't anybody calling me? Well, you're one of the few people that we can't find accurate data for, right? It can happen. So that's why I put that option in there. The option wasn't there a year ago, something new, okay? You want to get the best dialer. Now, when you're calling expired listings, this is different than when you're calling like massive neighborhoods. Slower is better, okay? Slower is better. You don't need a 10-line dialer to call expired listings. At least I don't think so. I don't see results from that. You can use Vortex, Vulcan 7, or a dialer like Quo, which used to be called OpenPhone. It's a single line dialer. That's what you can use, right? And I don't know if people want me to say this or not. A lot of people even use Follow Up Boss dialer to call expired.
Yeah,
and I know Follow Up Boss
has a very good dialer. You just take the data.
They have a really good dialer.
Get the data, because you don't need the dialer from the Red X's or the Vulcans. No. You don't need the dialer. If you have Follow Up Boss,
not for expireds.
You just take the data, upload it, and start calling.
Yeah, and I haven't looked into this. I don't know if cold calling out of the Follow Up Boss is allowed or not. Check it out. You should look into that. But people use it, and they have a lot of success with it because it's a really, really good dialer, right? You can just upload the data, upload it to its own list, like keep it separate from your internet leads for sure. But give it its own pipeline, and you can actually do a lot of work. The agents that are doing the best with this, I'll talk about some different case studies. All of them are using Follow Up Boss for this, actually. Not for dialing. They're using it for the follow-up, like to keep track of the listings, keep track of the sellers, keep track of the follow-up campaigns. They're using, which is crazy. You talk about this a couple of years ago. I don't think anyone was using a really good CRM for cold calling. Like no one was, right? I didn't really see it. Now, every single person that's doing this at a high level uses one of these tools to get in touch with the seller. But once they've contacted the seller, the follow-up game is the same as if it were an internet lead, which I think is kind of crazy. They use the CRM, they use the smart list, they use the stages to keep track of them and to send them different pieces of content, depending on what stage of the process that they're in. I think that's really smart. That's brilliant because I've always thought that, whether a lead is generated by Facebook for you or your ISA call it and generate it for yourself, once it's been generated, the game's very similar, right? It is surprisingly the same. Once you've had contact with that person, it's now a contacted lead. Where did it come from? Kind of doesn't matter anymore, right? You're not talking to a lead, you're talking to Nick now. Okay, Nick, I want to stay in touch with Nick. I want to send Nick my newsletter. I want to send him, if I drop a new video or if I drop a piece of content, I want to send it over to Nick. Nick needs to see it. And if I don't know, do a virtual event, I want to invite Nick to that event. It's the same game, right? Regardless of where you generated the lead from. That's why I think people are seeing a lot of these really good CRMs being used for that, okay? As far as scripting goes, this is, my opinion, by far the best expired script I've seen. This is a video from October of 2025, only 3 months ago, right? This is the latest and greatest. This is from Coach Brandon Mulrenin. I didn't even want to paste it here. I don't have permission from him to paste it here on this webinar. I pass it out as my own. I don't. But here's a link, and I'll send you this presentation. You don't have to copy that, right? You can look it up. This is from October of 2025. Coach Brandon Mulrenin, 10-minute video going through his script, right? You should use that. Okay, he's a really smart guy, and him and his I guess his brokerage and his students, they use that, and they're killers when it comes to expires. And it is a deceptively simple script. Okay,
quick question. There's a question in the chat.
I'll go for it.
Donna is asking what is considered an old expired.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna. That's a great segue into my next slide. What is an old expired? Great one, Donna. I appreciate that. So my definition is that it's at least 14 days old, okay? 14 days old. And why does that matter? That tsunami we mentioned earlier, 30 calls an hour, has pretty much subsided by then. Very few agents have the wherewithal, the systems, the process, the time to keep calling someone that hasn't responded in 14 days, okay? But the most sellers are actually kind of like turning their phones back on, and you have a much higher chance of having a conversation with people, okay? A big myth, like I mentioned, Nick, is that people relist immediately as an expired. That's not true, right? A very small percentage relist immediately. Most of them are going to, you know what, I'm going to wait for the spring market. I'm going to wait for this. We're going to take it off the market strategically. I'm going to keep the same agent. I'm not sure, but they're not really sure if they're going to work with the same person, right? So you have a chance to list it. Most of them are going to list within the next 9 months. That is true. The overwhelming majority list within the next 9 months, but not within the first day or the first 9 days. So there's a really good chance you can talk to them at least 2 weeks out. And I would go all the way back, depending on your market, Nick, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, right? Why not? Like 2 years, and see if you can get how many hits you get. That's why it's important to use a tool like RedX, because it will show you from the, so this is how it works. You go to your MLS, you get all the expired listings from last year, and then you upload them to a tool like RedX that will actually keep you compliant and will tell you, are these properties relisted or not, right? Which are actually still available, right? Well, have not relisted, right? The seller hasn't sold. Okay, let's call those. And it'll match them to a phone number in a compliant way. I know, and there's a lot of compliance around this because I've gotten fined by doing this the wrong way as an agent. So, you live and learn, right? So, you break the rules, you get slapped on the hand. So do it the right way. Use a tool like RedX and get the data, and you can go back. If you get a lot of hits at 12 months, try 18 months. Hey, how many hits do I get from 18 months? Well, how about 24 months, right? Because 24 months ago, interest rates at 8%, 7%, 8%. I think a lot of people sat that one out, right? They might be waiting for interest rates to improve. We're seeing some signals that interest rates are getting lower, right? They're no longer in the top of the sixes, lower sevens. They're in the lower part of the sixes, right? Okay, that's good. And there's some signals next year they might even go lower. Maybe we'll see, right? So let's take a look and give them a call and see where they're at, right? This is controversial, but I feel it takes a lot less skill to call a 6-month-old expired than a 1-hour-old expired. Right?
Yeah.
Why? Because what I just mentioned, the tsunami of call. Number one, even reaching them is hard because so many people are trying to reach them. And then if you actually talk to them the first day, Nick, they're like, "You're the 30th person to call me today." When you start, that's the answer. They're overwhelmed, they're frustrated, they're not happy. Okay, they don't even remember who they talked to that day, Nick. It's very challenging. Okay, so but when it's been 6 months, right? Yes, you're another agent calling them for sure. They're no longer angry about. They're like upset that they're getting 30 calls an hour, right? They're like, okay, great. Well, they might have a really clear reason why they're waiting. And your job when you're talking to an old expired, right, is just to ask them, hey, if you can get an offer today, would you still sell? Is there motivation to sell? I'm just here. Is this your forever home now? That's why I really like Brandon Mulrenin's script. The Brandon Mulrenin script tries to give them a lot of opportunities to just get off the phone and hang up on you, right? Like, hey, I'm guessing this is the home expired 6 months ago. You haven't sold it yet. I'm guessing this is your forever home now, right? Like that's part of the script. Like you're trying to get them to say, yeah, I'm not going to sell because it's not what they expect, right? There's a whole, NLP programming thing going on, but you're basically you sound different than most salespeople. And if you say something they don't expect, they're going to react differently, right? Instead of just needing the automatic no. Because most agents are asking, hey, you still want to sell this property? I might have a buyer. They all say the same thing. So they're programmed to just hang up on them and just not care, get them off the phone. But if you sound a little bit different than most agents, they don't expect it. And hence, they might actually think about what you're saying and give you a different answer, okay? Do they want to list with you? No. Is this their forever home? Well, not really, right? Okay, well, let's talk about that, right? So if you're not going to stay here forever, why are you not going to stay here forever? Tell me more about that. And that's where the conversation starts, guys. It's not about you. It's not about the commission. It's not about the price. On the phone, you don't talk about those things. It's not a phone call conversation. The conversation over the phone, whether it's you or an ISA doing this, by the way, are you still interested in selling? Because guess what? I can help you do that. But it doesn't. I don't even know if it makes sense for us to work together yet, Nick. I'm just trying to figure out, do you still want to sell this property? Well, no, maybe. Okay, great, maybe. Why do you think it didn't sell before? I'm just curious about that, right? Because I can do a lot of things, but I can't, perform miracles here, right? I'm here to tell you how to get this property sold in this market right now, not the market of 6 months ago, the market of today, how to get this property sold. Is that useful for you? Okay, great. Then we should talk, okay? But you're qualifying that, which as you should, right? And some of these markets, you're inundated with expireds. Find the ones that are actually motivated to sell and have a conversation with them, okay? And the last thing I love about old expireds, there's way less people calling them, like mostly zero people calling them, right? So you have a much better opportunity to have a real conversation. And a lot of these folks, like I said, they're going to list over the next 3, 4, 5 months people that expired over the last 6 months. So I would minimum grab people from June to now, maybe more, right? Because they're probably waiting for the market to improve to get their home back on the market. And guess what? I feel that we're going to sell more homes this year than last year. I feel interest rates on average are going to be lower this year than last year. So I feel a lot of people are going to jump off the fence and get in there. And if that's going to happen, do you want to list now or later when everyone's on the market? Yeah, we should probably talk now. Let's have a conversation, Nick. When can I drop by the property and tell you what I can do to get it sold, right? Because the conversation with an expired listing, Nick, let's be honest, it's mostly about the seller. Are they ready to do what they need to do to get the home sold? Are they ready? Okay. Because their last agent might have actually told them what they need to do. The agent they fired or let go, whatever, that agent might have been telling them what they need to do, but just didn't trust them anymore. Okay. So that's why we see a lot of these posts on Lab Coat Agents and other forums saying, man, I tried to tell the seller to get this price, to do this, to do that. And the listing expired. And a month later, they're back on the market at the price I told them to, with the changes I told them to make. What's going on? You told them the right information. They just didn't trust you anymore. Because guess what? They didn't sell when they expected, right? They didn't sell at the price that they expected. So now that might be rightfully or wrongfully blaming you. I'm not laying judgment here. I'm saying that's how the seller thinks. So sometimes it takes another agent, brand fresh, no baggage, no drama, to just come and tell them what they need to do to get sold. And if they're motivated enough, they're going to do it. Okay. Like it's just your ability to get in front of them and tell them what they need to do to get the property sold and be straight with them. And more often than not, people think this is, you have to do some crazy Jedi mind trick here. Like, no, Nick, it's getting in front of people and think what getting in front of a motivated seller, number one, and being competent and professional, telling them this is what we're going to do to get your home sold, right? This is the plan, right? And this is why it's going to work. And they're like, okay, you're the guy, Nick, let's go, right? So easier said than done, right? But that is the process. That's what it takes. All right. Next. Oh, and here's some case studies. This is Ben Maines. So another thing I like about expireds, Nick, is that, like I said, they're highly motivated sellers. They were literally on the market trying to sell their home. They couldn't, right? Which means when you've got someone working expired listings, they can get a lot of really quick results because they're highly qualified, highly motivated sellers. That's why you can get case studies like this. This is Ben, 4 listings in 60 days. This is with the help of an ISA calling expireds. Not calling anything else, calling expired listings, because you can get that dynamic going very, very quickly. This is Kia, 5 listings in 6 weeks. Why? Because she just needed more people to talk to, right? And like I said, it can be hard to get these folks on the phone, but when you get them on the phone, you can get home runs like this, right? This is Johnny Wells, 6 listings in 5 weeks. Why? Because he knew how to close expireds. He just needed more people to talk to, right? And then ISA helped him with that, right? This is Manar. He's out of Detroit, 4 listings in 30 days, expired, right? No, there's no magic here, right? This is what a highly converting lead source can give you great results like that. Okay, Circle Prospect. Circle Prospect is different, okay? It is not a high converting lead source the way expireds is, okay? It is like calling the phone book. If you're going to try Circle Prospect, right, you should definitely try it on your own if you want. But if you want to scale it, you need an ISA. There's no other way to do it. It just takes a lot of time. It's a very time-intensive way. It is one of the fastest ways to talk to an actual seller, a new seller you don't know, every single day. Like digital door knocking on steroids. My team likes to call it that, door knocking on steroids, right? Having 20, 30, 40, 50 conversations with sellers every day. Guys, we're real estate agents. If you can find a way to have 30 conversations a day with new sellers every day, I don't care what you say you're just going to get, but you're going to run into business almost by mistake, right? The hard part is having those conversations. It's not easy. You've got to have 30 conversations with sellers. You probably have to knock 60, 70, 80, 90, maybe 100 doors, right? To talk to 30 people. If you want to generate them from the internet and have 30 conversations a day, you probably need to generate, 80, 90, 100 leads a day, like brand new leads, to have new conversations every day. It's very expensive for internet leads, right? That's why this is such an efficient way to do it. Circle Prospect. But there's a trade-off. Like I said, you're not going to get like those numbers I just showed, 6 listings in 30 days. No, you're not going to get that with Circle, right? Because it's a trade-off. It is easier to talk to them, but you're going to get people in the middle of the process. Top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. You're going to talk to everyone at once, okay? There's no highly qualified, motivated seller on the other end immediately. You're trying to find those people. It can take 4 to 6 months to start getting listings consistently from Circle Prospecting, because at the beginning, you're just finding people that are in different parts of the process. It takes several months to actually move forward, but once you're in that train, you can actually go a lot faster, okay? The best data for Circle Prospect, Mojo Neighborhood Search, like really, really good. RedX, GeoLeads, also really, really good. People are using these. And the best dialer, by far, there's no competition here, in my opinion, is Mojo for Circle Prospect. I don't know anyone that's having success with this that is using Mojo. Not one person. Let me just be clear about that. This is not my recommendation. This is the only way I've seen it work, okay? And I don't have any deal with Mojo. Like, they don't even do referral fees or what is it, referral links. They don't have to, quite frankly, right? They don't care. Like, people are going to use them anyway. That's fine. People have a lot of success with Mojo. I love them. I did a whole webinar with LCA about Circle Prospect and how to do it. So I'm not even going to give you a script here. I want to just jump to the next one. But that is like a 1-hour webinar on how to do Circle Prospect. So guys, take the deep dive, request this slide deck, or just search on Google, Lab Coat Agent Circle Prospect. I'm going to pop up. I'm the guy that did it a few months ago. This probably was 5 or 6 months ago, because we're seeing so much success with this, okay? I really there's different scripts you can use: just listed, just sold, open house, and just calling the neighborhood around it. My personal favorite is a just sold. I had the most success with just sold because it gets people interested, okay? Because if you call someone and say, hey, I just listed this property and there's another 5 properties in the market, that's not that interesting. But if you call them and say, hey, I just sold this property and there's 5 listings that are active, and oh, wow, holy cow, Nick might actually know what he's doing here. Okay, cool. I want to talk to Nick, right? It's a much more powerful script, especially in a market, like I said, with higher inventory. Higher and going higher. Okay. We might this year, my predictions will actually be above COVID for the whole country. And a lot of markets are already there. But for the whole country, it might be above pre-COVID inventory levels. It's going to matter who can sell homes, who knows how to sell homes in this market. Okay. It's going to matter a lot. All right. Here's more case studies. This is Marlene. She's out of Honolulu, Hawaii. Actually, she's 26 million in volume every year from Circle Prospecting. Okay, Circle Prospect. All right. So just from calling the phone book, right? She could sell 20, 30, 40 deals per year, 26 million volume just from calling the phone book every year. She hired an ISA team, and now she no longer does cold calling. She only this is where you can get to when you scale up Circle Prospect. She has, I think, 3 full-time ISAs right now making the calls, and she only talks to the people that are interested in selling in the next year. That's her job now, calling the people that want to sell. That's not a cold call, not in my definition. Okay, that is, you're talking to a hand raiser. That's her job now. She no longer makes the 500 calls to find the 5 people that want to sell. She just talks to the 5 people that want to sell every day. Okay. And that's a really good business to run, in my opinion. This is out of Southern California, right? So 19 million for Circle Prospecting per year. And how does ISA double his output? This is Tucker. 11 listings in 10 months from Circle. And he used to be a huge expireds guy, right? Like Tucker is like an amazing cold caller, salesperson, crazy. But guess what? That's really hard to do. Right? You can burn out after a few years calling too many expireds. And he switched over to Circle Prospect. It's a much better business, right? Expireds are just harder. They're just harder to convert, harder to talk to, more competition. Circle Prospect, you know how many listing agents he competes with on his Circle Prospecting listings, Nick? 0 list agents he's competing with, right? Because he found them 6 months ago. Not too many. How many agents do, I don't know, a show of hands in this webinar, do Circle I mean, there might be, I blasted this in my own list. There might be a few Circle Prospectors here, but in general, there's 0. Like very few people actually do this. And this is why it can be a good strategy, right? And I think why it's working so well in 2025, and I think it's going to carry over in 2026. And this is Carlos Gonzalez out of San Antonio, 2 listings a month from Circle. Just, and he's have thousands, this is years ago, thousands of people in his database now just from Circle Prospect. Thousands in his database now, right? Because he's just been doing it consistently for a really long time. All right. I'm going to blast through this last one. We got about 15 minutes left. We talked about prospecting, which I think is the biggest opportunity right now. That's why it's first. Internet leads. Let's talk about that, right? Okay. When we talk about internet leads to find sellers, typically your mind goes to home valuation ads. Normal. That's the conventional wisdom, right? They can work on Facebook, Instagram, or even Google. Home, how much is my home worth? Find out how much it's worth, etc. Right? They target curious homeowners, all right, and they capture their information and the property information. That's typically what we're talking about with internet leads. You've probably seen these ads, and guys, nowadays, back in the day, you used to have to hire an agency to build an ad like this for you. Okay, nowadays, oh my God, right? Ylopo can do this with one click. Walled Garden, from Travis Tom, I think it costs like $100 a month. And it can generate this with you for one click. Like the ads are commoditized now. It is unbelievably easy to generate an ad like this. You select whatever picture you want, boom, you click 3 buttons, and you're running this ad. At least on Facebook, you're running this ad within 10 minutes nowadays with the technology we have out there, right? But that's not the hard part, okay? The ad is commoditized. Actually, you can probably say that about any Facebook ad nowadays for real estate, right? With tools like Walled Garden, Street Text, and even Ylopo, these ads, they actually, Ylopo is a little bit different price point. But if you just look at the ads themselves, because Ylopo is a whole ecosystem. If you look at the ads, Walled Garden, Street Text, it's like, what is it, $100 a month, Nick? A couple $100 a month now, and run unlimited amount of ads. They give you access to like 1,000 templates to run really good ads, right? Great. What's the challenge then if it's not the ads? The challenge is that it can cost a lot, right? Because the curious homeowner is a very expensive lead to generate. Okay. Confirmed homeowner that might be thinking of how much their home is worth, right? They might be thinking of refinancing. They might be thinking of selling their home at some point, or they might just be curious about how much it's worth. Is there any homeowner in America that doesn't want to know how much their home is worth now? Like it can be it's a pricey one, right? You got to get the initial approach just right, because you cannot, if you get a home valuation lead and you call them and you try to have a conversation about getting their home sold, they're going to hang up on you guys. They didn't request that. They didn't ask for a listing consultation. They didn't ask for that at all, right? You've got to get the initial approach right. And the initial approach is 99% about getting them an accurate home valuation. That's it, right? The conversation about potentially selling has to be a really well done segue from that initial conversation. Okay. But before that, if people are running home valuation ads, I want them to become the Amazon.com of home valuation ads. Next day at your doorstep. That's how you should approach it, right? Yeah. You make the best home valuations and you get them the next day in front of them, right? Like literally, I had an agent that's what they would do. They built their business running these Facebook home valuation ads. And they would, and this is like an urban area. I think it was like Brooklyn, like pretty dense urban area. They would walk around to these condos and just drop them off at the doorstep of people, right? Like, sorry, not condos, like townhomes. Like just drop them off at the doorstep. People actually enter, and he would just drop like a delivery person. They were the Amazon.com of home valuations. So they would drop off the home valuation. They talk to them saying, "Hey, did you get that? Great." That gives you a range. To give you a really accurate one, I'd have to look at the property, but up to you if you want to do that or not, right?
Yeah, or at the very least, have a more detailed conversation with them about their property.
100%, right? And then
you can also get them to send you pictures of their property. If they don't want you to come into the house, they can send you pictures.
100%.
You just want to make sure that the value that you give them is as accurate as possible.
100%. And that's the focus of that initial interaction. It is giving them what they asked for, right? Because too many agents make the mistake of asking, "Do you want to? Hey, if you want to list, I want to go and do like a CMA because you might be thinking of listing." It's already over. Like they don't want that. They didn't ask for that, and they don't want that. That's the biggest mistake I see with these kinds of leads, and that's why a lot of agents don't get results from them. Like I've seen agents spend thousands of dollars on these home valuation ads and get zero return because they're just approaching them completely the wrong way. It is kind of a slow burn. It is that segue into selling. It is first and foremost about getting them an accurate and preferably instant, but also an option to get a more accurate home valuation because that's what they want. Okay. All right. And like I said, most agents lack the skill to make that to have a really good conversation and kind of segue into the potentially selling sometime in the future. In fact, I really like the script that, hey, I know you're not thinking of selling at all. It probably wouldn't sell in a million years. But if you ever thought about that, a property like yours, yada, 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 would do this, would do that, would generate a lot of demand, or there's another 5 properties active in your neighborhood right now. We have to go out guns blazing to get the property sold in this market. That is you showing your expertise. That is you being the leader, like showing them the way, right? That is you guiding them through the process. It's not you pitching to them at all, right? You're teaching them, okay? That is a way to win with home valuation. Most agents, they jump the gun on these leads too quickly, and they feel they go nowhere. Nope. It is the starting point of a conversation, of a relationship. It is not a come list me lead. It is absolutely not that. And I think most agents get those confused, right? So got to say that. All right. Like I said, fortunes in the follow, and the follow-up process here is intense, right? Agents are great at that first call. It's hard to get these leads on the phone sometimes. You want to make sure you've got that speed to lead, you've got that follow-up, and you have a nurturing process in place. What do I mean by nurturing process, right? Okay. Your follow-up plans need to be specific to the lead. What do I mean by that? The first conversation you have with them, the second conversation has to be tied to the first one, okay? If they're giving you information about job relocation, about potentially their kids moving out of state because going to college, your next call should be relevant to that first conversation. A lot of agents don't do that, right? They're just checking in, touching base. Are you ready to sell? No. Make the follow-up tailored to the lead, okay? You want to keep your follow-ups organized in the CRM, and you want to have a long-term mindset with these leads, okay? So important. Easier said than done, but so important if you want to actually get results from leads like this, okay? Here's my tips on these follow-up plans. Follow-up is an opportunity to build a relationship and to offer massive value. Not like something that might be useful. No, massive value. What do I mean by massive value? Every seller is a buyer first and foremost, okay? So what's going to get their attention? A really great looking property at a good deal. Send them that, okay? If they're looking for, a condo in Boca Raton, like send them the best one that you can find, a screaming deal. Hey, Nick, so imagine this. Nick, I'm following up with you. Just checking in, Nick. Are you ready to sell? I heard you were looking about moving to Boca. Is that still in the plans? Yes or no? That's not that. You're not going to get a response to that text. You're not going to get a response to that voicemail. You're just not, okay? If you text them saying, hey, Nick, I found this screaming deal in Boca on the only building that doesn't have an HOA lawsuit, right? The only condo that it didn't have their HOA fees jacked up by 800%. You want me to send it over? Which one are you more likely to respond to? Be honest, right? The one that you're actually interested in, the one that talks to your needs and your dreams and your wants, okay? So that's a really simple example, very simplistic, but that's point is it stands. Your follow-up needs to be irresistible. Your follow-up needs to add massive value, and you're going to get a response. The lazy follow-up, if you're using all these automation templates that are generic to anyone in your database, it's just less likely to work, okay? It is less likely to work. If you've had a conversation with a lead, they should be on 0 automated follow-up plans, okay? Zero, because there's something unique about their situation. There's something interesting about their situation. The automation, maybe in the future will, not now. It won't contextually find that out, right? And a lot of these tools are getting really good, right? They might actually and I know a lot of CRMs are pursuing this. They're going to use your own notes to create the follow-up. That's going to be killer. It's going to be great, right? But until that's 100% there and useful and proven, you picking up the phone, you writing that text message is much more powerful. By dropping that piece of content, that property they're looking at, that news they might be interested in hearing, that is how you do really effective follow-up. And in my case, like my sales team does follow-up by dropping my content. Guys, this webinar today, we're going to send this to the prospects and people in my database, and I'm going to send to my newsletter, and I'm going to post this webinar on my social media. I probably did it today already, right? And then I'm going to turn into clips, and I'm going to post the clips about this piece of content, right? I'm going to give it to those people as well. Every single piece of follow-up should be value first. If you notice in this webinar, I'm not talking about how awesome it is to have an ISA and plans and prices and commit. It doesn't matter. That's not that valuable. What is valuable is how to get listings. That's how you should approach your own follow-up, right? 100%. Okay. Call everybody. We got like 2 minutes left. I'm going to power through this. Here's some more case studies. Look into them. They're really good. Jumping to the last one. This is the last one. The number one source for sellers. Why did I leave it last? Because you want to leave the best for last. And this is your own personal database. Okay. And I run this experiment every year within Lab Coat Agents. I ask, where'd you get your last listing? And that post usually gets between 50 and 150 comments. Okay. I've done this year after year after year, and the results are always the same. 75 to 80%, sometimes even higher than that, people got their last listing from their personal database. Past client, friend, family, former coworker, someone you already know, someone that already knows, likes, and trusts you, okay? You cannot discard this. All the other sources I've talked about, they're very scalable, they're empire-building sources, they're great. This source pays the bills, okay? Your database, people that already know, like, and trust you, even if they're outside of your geographic area, right? Maybe you just moved, right? Nick, you're outside Michigan for a while, I remember, like you were somewhere else. People in your database are in both places, actually. You should call them both, even if you no longer live in another area. Who cares? You're there to help them anyway. You're there to connect them with the best agent available if they have a need for real estate, right? These are not internet leads. These are not cold leads. This is people that actually know, like, and trust you. If you have a database, simple numbers, 100 people in your database that know, like, and trust you. It's a very low number. Let's say it's 100. If you properly market to that database, it should give you 10 to 15 referrals every year. 10 to 15 out of 100, okay? And I'm not saying this because that's theoretically, this is what I did as an agent. My first 3 years, I closed between 25 to 30 every single year from a list of 200 people. 200 people. That's it. If you do the math, it's about 15%, a little bit less, right? Like in that range. Like this is what I did. This is how this works. And I'm always kind of shocked when I see agents, they're like, yeah, that's not possible. It's not even close to that. Yeah, because you're not properly marketing your database. Okay. That's the only difference. That's the only difference.
I just wanted to tell you the last 3 emails I sent to my database.
Go for it.
The subject lines. You'll understand it from the subject lines. Interest rates just dropped below 6%. Here's why that matters.
That's a good piece of content. I thought good title. It's a good hook.
Yes, you can still buy a home in Oakland County under 300,000. And what 2025 did for housing in Michigan. So I talked about like it was like a wrap up of like
year-end
price ranges,
story, right?
Median list price to sale price, that
like
kind of stuff. So like it's all.
Nick, how often do you hit your database? How often do you send those 3 emails? Was that over like 3 months, a month, a week?
No,
how long was that?
That was over. I mean, I don't think you can really time it out. Like sometimes, like the 6%, the 5.99% interest rate needed to go out, right?
Yeah. Immediately when the iron is hot, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it was probably those emails went out over the last like I think I did an email a week, probably like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Perfect. That's great. So I wish most agents did 1 email a month, Nick. Okay. Yeah. Like you did 3 in the last month. That's amazing. With Power ISA, a little different audience. I do 3 to 5 a week. Just so people know, 3 to 5 a week, a list of 3,000 people, right? And there's current clients, past clients, prospects, everyone, right? So 3 to 5 emails a week. But if you're going to blast like me, they're going to be good emails. They're all going to unsubscribe. Who's this guy? But it's got to be good. If you're doing 1 a week, Nick, you're literally 10 times more volume than most agents, like 10x. That's 10x more, right? It's not a small number.
And the thing is, like, people might not always respond, but the more you do it,
doesn't matter.
The more top of mind you're going to
be. You're not making an offer either, right? You're not really making an offer on that email. It's like, hey, respond to my email. No, right? Absolutely not. You're informing them, right? And if your open rate is decent, like a good open rate for an email, like it's anything above 20% is good. I think it's really good. The best I do is like 40% out of 3,000 people. That's the best. Usually I'm between 30 and 40. But we should next webinar has to be about newsletters. We got to go deep on this. This is a really good topic because I think it's very misunderstood as a lead generation a tool. It's a tool.
And my last open rate was 27%. So
good. There you go. Boom. It's really, really good. That's really, really good for people. And I have more questions now. Like, what's your list size? We can talk about more. But that's if you want to see the newsletter webinar, drop a comment here in the chat. If you guys want to see like us, Nick and Gus go deep into like newsletter theory. My newsletter is one of the best sources of highly qualified leads, right? And not because they're going to respond to that email and say, come work with me, Gus. No, it is because whenever we talk to them and they do come and talk, they go, oh, I've been watching your content for years. Okay. And not because they subscribe to YouTube, not because they're a member of Lab Coat Agent. Well, a lot of them are members. Thank you guys, members of Lab Coat Agents, but they're looking at it on email, right? They find out about these webinars via email. Right? There was like 150 people registered for this webinar. Did 150 people attend? I don't think so. It doesn't matter. 150 people that had the intent of even clicking on that button. That's flattering. I love that. That's great, right? It means we're messaging this to the right group of people. You got to look at it from that perspective because you're playing the long game, right? If you go into newsletters wanting to get a bunch of list me's in the first year, you're going to fail miserably if that's the metric. But it is a really powerful tool, and it's part of nurturing, any kind of, even if you have 100 people in your database, I want you emailing them at least once a month. Nick is a power user once a week. That's great, but at least once a month you do that, okay? My personal favorite was always client events. This is how I made my money. Every time I would sit down and call 200 people to invite them to an event. These were in person, by the way. This is before like virtual was a thing. This is back in, the 2010s. So, I would have people in person. But guess what? And, I would have maybe 10 people attend, maybe 5 to 10, sometimes 20, right? And you know why that didn't matter? Because of this. I called them, and in that call, I would always segue into, by the way, if you need anything about real estate, I'm your guy. Let me know if you need anything at all. Do you have any real estate plans for the next year? I would make 200 calls like that. 5 people would attend. Who cares? Doesn't matter, because I would ask 200 people for a referral 4 times a year, and that's how I got 10 to 15%. It's not rocket science. I would ask 200 people 4 times. I would make 800 asks, and I would get 15 yeses every year from a list of 200 people. If people do that, you're going to get business, kind of no matter what, right? So that is it, guys. We're at the end. We're a little bit over. Oh man, we're really over time. So appreciate you guys. If you want a copy of this slide deck, check it out. Send an email to info@powerisa.com. Make sure that the subject line includes the word Sellers 2026. Sellers 2026. And this will be posted on YouTube like tomorrow, right, Nick?
Yeah, tomorrow at the latest for sure.
Yeah. Okay, 100%.
The live stream might be there already.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, within the group for sure, and it'll be posted on YouTube like with a really cool intro and everything. I think pretty quickly. So
yeah,
that's it. That's what I got, guys. This is it. This has been the webinar: How to Get More Listings in 2026.
Awesome. Get the free deck. If you want any question, if you have any questions about Power ISA, you want to reach out to Gus. How could they just info@Power ISA also?
They can just go to the website powerisa.com. And they've got a link right at the homepage, so you can book a call with the team or shoot us any questions you've got.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. And there's some asking for a newsletter webinar, so we might have to do that next time.
Ooh, that's it. We'll put it on the list for sure. I think it's a really misunderstood topic. Underutilized. I'll just say that, underutilized. And if you're up for it, I'd love to do a webinar.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like it could just be an email, with information that's valuable.
100%. Super. The simplicity. A thought has to go into it. It has to be good, right? But that's what started once a month. You can have a good idea once a month. You can have a good idea, right?
Yeah.
I really like the Ricky Carruth method. I don't know if you followed Ricky on this. He sends one a week, I think like Fridays, and he includes 3 things. Something about real estate news, local news about your current market. He sends something unrelated to real estate happening in the community, and then the third one is the deal of the week.
He sends the deal of the week is a thing that I've done once in a while too. Yeah.
It's an interesting. It's gonna get some clicks. People are gonna be interested. Hey, what is the deal of the week this week, right? So deal of the week. So real estate news, something about the community, and deal of the week. Like that, you could probably come up with that. At least once a month, a couple times a month. You can probably figure that out. If you just did that, and he would do this not even with his personal database. He would do it with circle prospecting leads. He would circle prospect every day, get 2, 3, 4, 5 people a day, and then just blast them an email once a week. That's the Ricky Carruth. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's the Ricky Carruth method. That's it. Having really good conversations on the front end, sticking them in the newsletter, and then magic happens in the back end, which is kind of crazy. So
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for being here. Appreciate you, Gus. This was awesome. Lots of information. Reach out to Gus at info@Power ISA. Use the subject line Sellers 2026 if you want this slide deck. He'll send it over to you. Otherwise, we'll have a great everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everybody.